Welcome back, everyone. I'm John Berman in New York. On the screen here, we are watching the sentencing hearing for Ariel Castro. This is going on live in Cleveland right now. We are hearing a great deal of dramatic testimony about what went on those nearly 10 years that the three women were held in captivity, how Ariel Castro managed to do it. On the stand right now is Dr. Frank M. Ochberg. He is a psychiatrist, something of an expert on something called Stockholm Syndrome. This is the condition, the sort of mental state that sometimes captives, hostages get, that somehow they're bound to their captors. What he is trying to do is explain the psychological terror that was really inflicted on the three victims. Let's listen.
Database that included the writings of the victims and photographs and films that were taken during the period of captivity.
And, Doctor, did you provide a letter to Mr. McGinty with regards to your findings with regards to this case?
Yes, I did.
And let's start with number one. What were your findings? How were these women hurt?
Well, Your Honor, these women were hurt in many ways, and I boiled it down to three. First is repeated episodes that were terrifying and that were the kind of trauma that we meant when we defined the post-traumatic stress disorder, the kind of trauma that you don't escape for years and sometimes a lifetime afterward. Images, smells, touches that come back to you when you're asleep, when you're awake, when you're in that twilight zone between sleep and wakefulness. And sometimes you feel you're going crazy because your mind isn't working the way it should. This is not normal memory. This is the brain in a different type of circuitry. So it is medical, it is physical, it isn't simply an extreme of anxiety. They had that. That was a terror-induced state of mind. They had an entirely different dimension that I would call degradation, defilement, dehumanization. Not quite the same as being placed in high arousal, shock, but being treated like an animal. Being systematically and relentlessly deprived of your sense of self, your sense of dignity, your connection to others. And that has to do with not having access to sanitary facilities, the way you're fed, the way you're chained, all of that for a long, long time. And then, finally, they were deprived. They were deprived of mother, of family, of home, of school, of 10 years in which you make your transition from being a young woman to being a woman. And that kind of deprivation isn't the same as being shocked and degraded. And part of what that does is it plays with your ability to know who to trust. This is the stage in which the human being is developing the capacity for real intimacy. This was not real intimacy. This was a perversion of intimacy.
And Doctor, did he do additional damage through some of his actions against his victims?
Well, of course, and he deliberately aborted. Whether he believed it in his own mind or whether he feigned believing it, he tried to produce the belief that this daughter was a love child, not the product of forced sex in captivity. And when that happens, there is something that goes on in our minds. And for a period of time, we lack a real appreciation of what is real and what isn't. We become bonded to the person who aggresses against us. And that's the Stockholm Syndrome. I could explain it very quickly.
Go ahead.
Now, when you are suddenly captured, and in a moment you realize, I am in the presence of someone who can kill me and who makes me feel as though I will be killed. You're made like an infant. And then when you're treated so that you can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't use a toilet, you can't move without explicit permission, you are, the word would be infantilized. But then, little by little, you're given what it takes to survive. And in your mind, not consciously, unconsciously, you deny that this is the person who did all of this to me, and you start to feel the way you did as a little baby with your mother, who is the first source of nourishment, of life itself. So the body assigns to that person the feelings that you would have to your own biological mother. That's the Stockholm Syndrome. It's very deep. It's not something that you're doing very consciously. And I've interviewed scores and scores of people who had the Stockholm Syndrome in different circumstances. And they're like these victims. The damage that was done does not go away. They have life sentences. This was not trivial. I think they will, with the love and the support of this whole community and what they bring to the table, they have a good chance to have a good life. But that doesn't mean that they will ever be free of the damage that was done.